So, we have Reverend June Dolley Major from the. She's an Anglican priest, and she has her own foundation called Walk in the Shoes of the Survivor. It's a non-profit making organization. I want to welcome you to Collective Action Magazine. We are here at the second summit, presidential summit on gender-based violence. Here's a question. You're the second individual from a religious space to share this platform with us. I really want to know, out of curiosity, why is the faith or the religious sector not as vocal? We've seen a lot of protesting and people just being vocal. Why is the faith-based sector or the religious sector not as vocal?
Thank you for having me. So I am standing here or sitting here on both capacities as a priest in the faith sector, but also as a victim survivor from the faith sector. So my rapist, I'm also a rape survivor, and my rapist is also a priest. And the reason why there's so much quiet and silence around gender-based violence within the religious sector is basically to cover up. And I'm being blatantly honest right now. And I speak from experience and so many others who have reached out to me because of that. So, and I'm from one of the mainline churches. Of course, we're easy to point to the pop-up churches and stuff, but I'm from the mainline church. So, perpetrators. So within the church, we speak out against gender-based violence, the 16 days of activism, the Women's Day, they have these events. But when the perpetrator is a pastor, a priest, or an imam for that matter, or any other religion, they protect them. They keep quiet. And within Christianity, we have that verse that you don't touch God's anointed one. And they use that to their advantage. And so if you have this, the perpetrator is the pastor, the religious leader, so you can't speak out because you are too afraid. And the same happened with me as well, where you are silenced by the hierarchy, which is patriarchal. So that's quietness. So how does a person sitting in the congregation go to the pastor or the priest and say, listen, I am a rape survivor, when they know that they're covering it up within their own ranks? So that's why there's been this big silence when it comes to gender-based violence. We've seen in apartheid years, faith sector was at the forefront, leading the marches, fighting against apartheid. But we are there now in this fight. And it's because within their own ranks it's happening.
This is very interesting and very enlightening. How do we then break the silence? Because clearly there's a lot of victims. You are a victim yourself. How do we break the silence?
To me, it's people always say, because so many people keep silent. And I always say, it doesn't start with break the silence. You have to break the fear before you break the silence. And that's the reality. People are fearful. In my case, my bishop used when I was ordained, I took a vow of canonical obedience to obey my bishop and his or her successors. So they hold that over you. Out of fear for different reasons. And we have, the shaming, even within religions. They shame women because their skirts are too short maybe, or they're exposed. So you have to break the fear. And that's where it starts. Once you break the fear, and people must stop enabling the perpetrator. And when that happens, then the silence can be broken. Okay. Because we put false guilt on ourselves, we put false guilt on the victim. And you always say, but what about the perpetrator's family? Maybe you did something to encourage it. We look for excuses and we say, well, it can't possibly be this person. So once those things happen and we break the fear and we're able to stand up and say, it's not my shame, and speak out, then that's when we break the silence.
It sounds like to me that regardless of where you are as a victim, whether you're a victim under the faith sector, you're under the traditional, regardless of where you are, it's the same victimization that happens over and over and over. In communities, same fear. Women are afraid to go because they're afraid of being told maybe your skirt is too short. What did you do to provoke him? Or maybe he's an influential person. The very same fierce tactics are employed both in the church and both in this, for lack of a better word, secular.
Yeah.
What because most of the victims are women and children, what's our role in the church as women? What's our role? Are we playing any role in breaking the fear, or are we encouraging that?
Unfortunately, and again, I can speak from experience, because that fear is real. Because you get ostracized, you really get alienated, you get treated like a leper. And I'm not going to lie to you, because I broke the silence, I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. Because I broke the silence, as the perpetrator is a priest, my bishop stopped me from working, so I couldn't receive any salary. He stopped every opportunity for me, which ended up in me physically being homeless. I was homeless and I lived on the street at some stage. Then I lived in a shelter. Up until today, I still don't have any income. And here at the summit, I addressed the faith sector in the breakaway groups, and I said, did any of you come and even give me a slice of bread? So you know this, but you protect the institution even though you know it's wrong. So all these things needs to be addressed, and too long we've been pushing it under the under the carpet. You don't speak about it. It's the church, you don't touch that. It's the religious sector, you don't touch that. You don't touch God's anointed. But God's anointed doesn't do this. So we need to start breaking that fear and empowering our women and saying, I believe you. It's powerful words, 3 words, I believe you. And believe the women, because right now women is in a position in the church, patriarchal. You don't have much say. You still have to listen to what he says, and even the female clergy. They call them handmaidens of patriarchy, or the princesses of patriarchy. Not all of them, but there are some, because they want to keep your job, so you do whatever patriarchy says and you abide by it. But inside you know it's wrong. And so these things all have to change within the faith sector before it is a safe space.
Thank you for sharing that. There is an issue of patriarchy. That's why I'm asking, what are women doing? Because under that, we all are facing the same restriction, boundaries, limitations, oppression. That's the word I'm looking for, of patriarchy. What would you say, just in closing, what would you say to a girl, a woman, a child that is being abused within the church? What would be your advice? Assume she's listening to you right now and is going through the same pain that you've gone through. What would be your advice? Seeing you've walked the journey, what would you advise her to do?
Definitely speak with someone. You have to speak, because within this silence, the darkness manifests itself. It eats away at you, and it has a negative impact on your life. So definitely you have to talk about it. Don't keep it within yourself. Our children need to find a place that is safe, and we need to believe. And sadly, again, even we as mothers, the way we raise our girl child and a boy child, the way culture says, a girl, you must be quiet, and you tell the boy child, tigers don't cry. So we end up with male toxic masculinity, and you sit with a girl child that grows up to be quiet. I need to obey my husband or my boyfriend, and when it's issues of violence and stuff, keep quiet. It's family issues. So how we raise our children, it needs to start there, really educating them from a young age. Change the narrative in our lifetime. Stop feeding into this culture that is okay for a woman to go through that. So girls need to know you have a voice. It's your body, and no one has the right to your body. But even the boy child, because it's not just the girl child. It's your body. No one has the right to it. And we need to believe the child, even if the perpetrator is a priest. We need to say, I believe you, and we need to take action. No one is above the law. Absolutely no one is above the law. And that needs to start changing. And that's why I'm pushing the president to approve a commission to investigate historical child sexual offences within the churches. Because it has happened, and it is happening.
Thank you so much for this interview. We definitely want to do a follow-up with you on this conversation, especially with your organization and what it is that you're doing.
Thank you so much.
But thank you for coming on to this platform. We appreciate it.